guys, we're going to get started here. Just basically pick up where we left off yesterday in terms of our daily trading education. Market is had a good move today. Overall, kind of closing a little bit in a bit of a chop zone here. Still, shorts are still kind of valid here, I guess, but I feel like we already made the move for today, and I'm a little bit more interested to see where we close today and where we're going to open Monday to determine what the play is for Monday, because I can still see a play for both sides here. But this good shakeout move lower this afternoon was a great start. If we're going to be looking at new longs, I think that's going to help us because we needed to clear out some of the all-time high longs like we talked about yesterday and clear today's longs out. And yeah, I'll go over some ideas for Monday in a few minutes. For now, just wanted to go over like kind of what we were thinking about coming into the market today. So in yesterday's webinar, we discussed a couple of areas of interest, as basically saying like the big levels for me were 57.95 to 58.05, this whole zone here. Because a lot of my trade decisions today were going to revolve around whether we were holding over or under that level into the open today. So generally speaking, guys, like we talked about yesterday, if we're holding up over the hourly chart, hourly EMA, 4-hour chart trend, and VWAP, we're likely going to be looking at long bias trades. But I also expressed to you guys yesterday that I had some serious reservations about the bigger picture outlook on this one, and I kind of suspected that it was likely that this might become a lower high, and that we would actually end up trapping bulls and clearing out today. The reason I'm bringing that up is because this is really kind of a good example of, I guess, where I'll see certain things in the chart that will technically be potentially valid opinions or ideas, but it's not going to actually affect the way that I trade throughout the day. So for example, it would have been a mistake for me to come in today, assuming this lower high and been shorting early. Likely would get chopped out of this thing badly trying that. Like for example, let's say that I assumed a lower high and I started shorting in here, well, good chance I probably would have got flagged out near those highs, and it would have been all kinds of trouble in there, right? So even though I have my opinions on where the market may go, I always let my trading system dictate where I'm going with the market in the intraday at least, which today actually was a long bias. For those of you that were following on the stream, you'll remember that I took a long signal in this area here intraday. And it was a totally valid signal, but you guys probably also recall that I wasn't the most comfortable in that position because I still, in the back of my head, I still thought I didn't think we were going to make an all-time high today. I did have a valid trade signal and a setup that I should take, but I treated it a little bit more scalpy because I really did, in the back of my head, have a lot of reservations about the chart today having any chance of a big continuation without a clear out of some kind. So it was a bit more of a well, it actually ended up being a decent move. It got through the high a day. The trigger for the long signal was right in here. We did a good job this morning waiting for things to tighten up. You know, the plan this morning was really simple. We couldn't have been any more simple, really. We just needed to. The market had a little bit of an overnight move here. So starting from pre-market 7 a.m., we moved up, had a couple legs up. We were a little bit extended, so we kind of needed it to come back, and we wanted to see, just like we were talking about yesterday, if it would hold up over 58.05, which at the time this morning was everything was revolving around that area. Okay, we had hourly EMA, VWAP, 4-hour EMA was right below it. Everything was revolving around that level. So 58.05. Big spot to watch this morning. My preference was going to be if we were looking for a long that they cleared under it and then recovered and then flight. I think that would have helped fuel up a little bit more of a move for us. We likely would have had some shorts trapped in there. But the chart just so we didn't really get a big flush under 58.05. It was more or less just a good test of it early on. You can see here, this is where the market opened right here, pulled back, just really quiet the first 20 minutes. Really, just waiting for a bias to be confirmed. Generally, I rarely will be taking any trades in that first 20 minutes. Is kind of waiting for the development of the chart. So we got the pullback. It held the VWAP area, held the hourly EMA in there. 4-hour EMA was right below. Even though I was looking at this chart yesterday and saying, man, I think that this thing is ready to clear out lower soon, I still had to stick with what the bias was telling me to do intraday. That's really the takeaway that I want for you guys today. The confirmation for me that at least in the short term, at least for the morning, the long bias was the play. was that we held all the moving averages, we held the VWAP area, everything was hanging on in here. We had a little bit of a news event here that just gave a quick up and down, and then you can see we started to try to develop on the 5-minute chart trend over the EMA. We had one test below, love that, because it held, confirmed a hold in here, and basically just a long signal right here. Obviously, not a big trade. Did I expect it to be a big trade? No. I had sells really early out on this one. From this area here along, I was basically already selling into like 1550, 1625, 17, 1825, 2025, and I think that the highest order I had was 2225 that didn't fill. There's a resistance area if you zoom out from the all-time high back here. I really didn't think we were going to get through that. So I guess the takeaway there again is like, yes, it was a long signal, but context-wise, I really didn't believe that that had like a 30-point potential to it. I truly thought it was likely just going to be a push and a high a day and sell into the highs. And the high a day was 17. So it's not like there was a ton of meat on that bone, but it technically was a perfectly valid long signal. And you know, you never know. I could have been wrong. Maybe it could have made a new high, all-time high up there, possibly. But I didn't really think that it was very likely that it would. So again, it was a fairly, it was a fine trade. Got what we wanted out of it, which was the high day push. From there, after the high day push, I really thought we were going to roll. I was kind of looking like I still would try to remain long bias. And with that one, guys, if you recall, I had my stop set really tight. So after we reached a couple targets, I actually moved the stop to break even. And again, it's a tighter stop than I would have used for a trail on a position that I believed had more potential to move further. So I really kind of just felt like that was more of a scalp, and then I wanted to see if my thesis would play out that the bulls were going to get caught today. The way that I was seeing it, I'm going to clear the chart. We talked about it yesterday, but just a quick recap. The way that I was seeing it was we've been holding this trend for an awfully long time, and I was thinking that today, based on the way that the chart pattern was sort of setting up and playing out, we had that big pullback yesterday for another dip into the trend line, and it held, and we had buyers coming in there. It seemed to me, and it looked to me like, because we kind of closed with what looked like a lower high here, that it was either going to likely put a lower high in early, and we'd get a short bias signal under 95. It would have to be after 10 a.m. to confirm, but instead it was over the 05 area, which confirmed long. But like I said yesterday, I kind of figured like this might be the bull trap. It doesn't look like the kind of chart to me that's quite ready to go higher that early. If I was thinking long on this chart with the pattern that's presented here before we saw the open, I would think that we would either need to go lower and then recover, like shake out, break this trend to shake out the longs, like we talked about yesterday, and then hold this trend and then recover and flag, or trap the bulls into a failed opening bull flag, which is what they did. And then ideally the best pattern would be a lower high like this, then break lower on Monday, but it was more like a panic sell today. So we definitely trapped the overhead there. I didn't want to get trapped with them. I took the long signal I had, get out of the way with a profit and a break-even stop, which was perfect. But I was really curious to see if my thesis would play out that the bears were going to stuff it today into this multi-day flag attempt. The overnight longs really had the best setup on this, I think, for long side. But it was early, pre-market, 7:15 a.m. That's one of the better looks, I think, right here in terms of patterns. If they were thinking long, they had this big. So this is yesterday. They had the big pullback into the close, kind of neutral a little bit. Had a little bit of an attempt lower overnight. Failed to move lower. Held 90. Held towards the trend line. Recovered higher low. Flag here. I think this is like the best looking setup that longs had since this morning. But I'm always thinking about like where the stop's going to be. So we talked about that while we were streaming the trades this morning. We were looking at like where would longs be likely to take stops. Well, since the overnights had this pattern that was pretty good looking for a long signal in here, to me the obvious level they'd be using as a stop is the higher low before that breakout. So around 57.95. And then the morning longs, like the late after the open longs, they didn't really have much of a level to use. If they went at the open, they kind of just, well, the open had already moved, right? So this pulled back, and their level then was going to be 58.04, and that was the key level we were watching anyways. We kind of needed that level to hold to get long bias confirmation for a day trade this morning. You have there was a flag here, not one that I typically would play, so I didn't play that, but 58.0975, they'd be using the higher low at '05. Most likely as they're stopping, they get stopped out because they were a little early there. You can see it actually dipped down. And then this is where finally the confirmation was there for my trade right in this flag. And my stop for this one would have been 58.10 initially, but again, after the high day push, the stop was moved up to break even. So I'm looking at where are these people all going to stop out of their positions and where are we going to start seeing some sell pressure? Well, I mean, it was kind of obvious in the morning. We talked about the way that this was looking on the 15-minute chart. An hourly chart going into 11 a.m., it did not look like the chart that was ready to go higher. I mean, that much was clear. And the one thing that I was, really, really wanting to get across on the stream this morning was the importance of the position of the hourly EMA going into that 11 a.m. time frame. And the fact that we had really not cleared out any of the longs, like from the overnight session, it just had still continued to break these flag lines, and it just definitely looked like it needed to clear out. Even if we were going to remain long bias, which I would have if we had broken lower and then recovered, I would have to stay long bias there. But either way, whether it was going to be long or short in the afternoon, it did need to clear lower. Here's a 15-minute chart. Okay, so here's the 15-minute chart from the morning. This is pre-market. Market opened here, pulled back, held the 15 EMA, recovered. My long was somewhere in here, right there. Made a new high, pulled back, held the 15 EMA, lower high, broke it. This was a good place for longs to get cleared out, but there's actually a very, very straightforward sell signal on the 5-minute chart that was pointed out on the stream today, guys, and that was just the very simple technicals here, just a trend break of the 5-minute chart trend that was holding through 1350. You'll see here that things look pretty choppy, and they were in the first 30 or 40 minutes. That's why we don't, we're not really trading in here. We're waiting for things to develop. So we got this big, big sideways candle. We finally started to see a trend develop. We were holding the VWAP hourly EMA. Now the 5-minute chart starting to hold. But we had that little trap under the 5 EMA. Then we held, and then this was a 5-minute, 15-minute chart flag. This was exactly where the shorts needed to cover out, spike up into highs. But again, not a good big picture outlook, in my opinion, for the bulls to really play this out big. So very protective on the long side. The sell signal was definitely back under 1350 here. Like I said on the stream this morning, guys, I wouldn't have considered taking any other long setups on this chart until or unless we cleared lower, recovered, and then set up a new pattern like this. Purpose of that again is to get some of these longs out from the morning and the late morning, clear them out under the trend, get shorts involved in here, and then show us confirmation by holding up the trend again over the hourly chart, 15, etc., and then flag again. But it turned out that my educated guess that the market might head lower today was correct. Once we broke the trend there, the market continued to sell off and continued to sell off, and it just continued to do that throughout the morning. Cleared out pretty much all those levels. The 15-minute chart started to get quite extended as we really started to unwind here into 12 o'clock on this Friday afternoon. And, well, we had a level we talked about yesterday that was going to be of importance, not so much in after hours, but intraday, 95. At the time yesterday was a bit of a level there we want to keep an eye on. And this was the thing. We ended up with a pretty clear pattern for short bias in the afternoon. And that was because we really, really failed to recover the hourly chart trend. And, we had a big failed flag. So the way I'm seeing this chart, let's zoom it out a little bit more. I think it'll be easier for you guys to see here. But if we just pretend that we're watching this in real time in the afternoon, we haven't seen what happened yet. Well, this trend line has been holding over and over and over again, and these dip buys only work until they don't. It finally had a pattern here that didn't really look good for a continuation, in my opinion. Big move into all-time highs. Now, like we talked about yesterday, the reason that this is significant to me is because if there's any swing shorts in it, they're all likely taken out up here. And one of the things that helps us fuel the market higher are traps where shorts get trapped into trend breaks that hold or unknowingly shorting into trend holds because they're taking smaller time frame trades. So when shorts are getting involved, that's what helps fuel the move. The shorts need to cover out and new buyers come in. For example, this all-time high break. So most of the shorts likely got taken out into all-time highs yesterday. Like a lot of the swing shorts would have got taken out up there. And it's usually after a move like that that the buy pressure will kind of dry up a little bit because now there's less shorts in it and more overhead long. That's the first part of it. Second part is that now that we have longs overhead, if this flag today fails to hold for a continuation, so if it kind of held on like this and then we hold here, that's still valid for a long side and it's still okay. But if it doesn't, if it breaks back under the hourly EMA 4-hour VWAP area, this is valid to me for short, and I would expect that it's likely going to break under 57.90, which was the overnight low. And the level that I really wanted it to break to really clear out was yesterday's low. That would have been a big move for today, though, but under 57.78. I was thinking that this would be the best case, would be take out yesterday's lows and then a kind of a chain reaction of all kinds of stops going off to clear under that level. And then maybe a bounce play might set up for a bit of a recovery there. But ultimately, it did look entirely like the makings of a short this afternoon with the failed flag overhead after the after the all-time high push and overhead that got involved there. The 3 hours of attempting to recover VWAP and hourly EMA all rejected. All leads to likely a move lower. One more thing. I really was not keen today on, for all the reasons I mentioned just now, I was not at all keen on trying to buy this dip today. A bottom bounce setup would have been a different story, like if we clear under it, then set up a long. That's different. But just to step in front of that trend line today, I believe that this was the day to not do that because for the reasons we just mentioned, the overhead longs from the morning and the failed flag, the overhead longs from the all-time high break, all reasons I would believe that this could make a bigger move lower today. Less shorts covering, and I think to really clear out, guys, we need a little bit lower. If we can get through 78 on Monday, that would be a good extra clear out. Then if we can recover from there, we can maybe start looking at longs again. But I'll tell you what, let's talk a little bit about what we're looking at for Monday, because I can go either way with this. I mean, look, if we can't take it lower, if they can't break under 78 and clear that level out, technically speaking, now that we've cleared out, flushed out the longs under the trend line, broke through the, overnight lows there. If we do end up recovering, if we do end up, early next week recovering 58.03 to '05 area and flagging, I would be fine with continuing to look at long setups there. It would be valid for me. But my preference, frankly, is that I'm preferring that we trade lower on Monday. And the reason I'm preferring that is because the daily chart could use a little bit of a correction. I mean, we haven't really had a good daily chart retest of that moving average, that EMA, to confirm the trend. It's been a while since we've tested it. If we break today's lows on Monday, today's lows are 82 currently, around there, and then the previous day, yesterday's lows are around 78. So there's a couple levels that could get cleared out if they want to move lower, and we'll get a confirmation with that with an intraday setup on Monday if it is. But if they don't want to get through that level, guys, I'm still game for the long side. This was a good clear out. I think it's one that we needed. We kind of needed something to shake out some overhead, shake out some longs. It's just been a really long time of these dip buyers kind of getting away with these dips, and in order to get a move higher, we need to do two things. We need to clear out some of these longs that would be sellers, which happens when we have bigger pullbacks, and we want to trap shorts into those pullbacks to help fuel that next move as well. So if it turned out that we did end up breaking 78 next week, that would give us the daily chart. EMA would likely get tested on that, and then if we recover here and then start to flag again, we're looking at longs, we're looking good. But even at this point, with this trend break that we had today, I think it would have been better if we broke yesterday's lows. I think we would have cleared out more longs. But technically speaking, for me, if we're back up here and holding and setting up next week like this, I am fully ready to go back to long side. So the bias was actually long this morning, but cautiously because I did technically have an intraday long bias because of the chart was specifying that we should go that way with it. My instinct and recognition of the bigger picture pattern led me to believe that we likely would end up with a lower high. So I would take the long, but I'd be really careful with it. The short side, I thought that really the risk reward was a little bit tough to quantify maybe at times on this one. It wasn't bad. I mean, they had to risk, hourly chart players had to risk about 10 points there. Um, and it did go down 15. I mean, again, that's only 1.5 hour. It wasn't the best risk reward scenario unless they're able to trail it into Monday, which they might because they technically haven't been taken out yet. I think that as long as we're under 58.05, this is still a short bias chart. If we were to recover 58.05, back to long bias. If we remain unable to recover that level on Monday, guys, I will be looking at shorting again. So a setup like this, Monday, short. If we look like they're trying to go lower, maybe they trap and they hold whatever it is. If we get back over that 05 level, that's where I'm starting to look at long again. And if we do get a short in a bigger clear out lower, I will be looking at, after shorting, looking at bounce plays for the long side to catch the daily chart trend, which is still in an uptrend, and see if I can get some really good entries, perhaps for a swing or something like that on this daily chart frame. I'm watching that 60 base. Well, there's a lot of areas to watch down here, but initially I like to watch around the EMA and see if we find any support down there. So I am looking forward to, guys, what seems like we should be up for another good week of trading. This week was fairly good, particularly the second half. And I'm definitely looking forward to it, guys. I hope you did enjoy this webinar today. Just a reminder for those of you that are newer to the group, you can review these webinars, and I recommend that you do. If you can, just to develop as quickly as you can. This is the kind of stuff that will really help you get there a little bit quicker, a lot quicker, in my opinion, save you a lot of time and energy if you can just spend a little bit of time going through some of the daily webinars. So if you go to the video lesson section from the members portal of the website, you'll see the 2024 webinar section. It takes a little time to load because there's about 300 webinars in there probably already, but lots of action in here to review. So I would recommend when you have time just to kind of go through those, and they're all labeled. So if there's something specific you're looking for, like a bottom bounce long play, stuff like this is actually a pretty good one there from August. Yeah, there's lots in there. I mean, there's more than 3,000 in total over the years that we've developed. They're all free and available for your use. So I certainly hope you guys do take advantage of that. And like I said, guys, next week we're looking at 58.05 early to see if if we remain resistance there, see if the bears can keep this up. We should be able to determine a bias fairly simply in the morning on Monday and just get back to doing our usual thing and picking out the morning trade and kind of roll from there. So I will leave you guys with that. Thank you very much for sticking around. It's been a pleasure streaming for you all this week, and we'll see you guys on Monday. Thanks again, guys. Cheers.